All right, welcome back everyone to Ladder League Recaps. This is the Week 6 recap and the top 8 predictions. It's a very exciting week because, everything is kind of boiled down into the top 8 now, and I've a special guest of Mr. Zach here, known as ZacMuffin. Hi, Zach.
Hello.
And we're going to be recapping Week 6, which was a very exciting week, and then have a pretty long segment about, talking about our top 8 predictions and then kind of some free tournament forms that we filled out. Anyways, to start, we're going to talk first about this Laser Daime Phantom match, which was Week 6, Match 2. I didn't really get to catch this one, so I'll have Zach kind of break this one down a little bit, and then we can talk about how we thought this race went. If you want
Yeah, obviously, Cena and I kind of missed a lot of the matches this week, but for this amount of it that I was able to catch, the big point of contention here was that Laser had like that technical issue and his PC crashed or whatever in I think it was like between Princess and DSE, which is interesting because the last time that happened, you can see in the previous week was when it happened to T-Fresh, and he got like a fake 2-minute PB with it. And then Laser went on to, after that happened, to get a 2:23 flat, which ended up being the current wildcard time when he set it, which is also like his best tournament performance by, I'd say, a considerable margin. I mean, like over 2 minutes, right? So that was kind of insane. I mean, Phantom pre-recorded that week. He also did really well. He was actually, the funny thing about his run is he was actually on pace to PB by like a full minute. And then I think it was like CCT, just kind of the end of episode 5. It kind of like all choked away.
Ahead into 3 and 5.
Which is, I mean, that's crazy. Phantom's consistency this year was just like, it's just unreal. Like, if you look at the placing he got, right, that's 10th place, I think, which is just like, for someone who was, I mean, what was his seed? Can you go check what his seed was?
14.
14? Like, that's just crazy, like, how well he performed. He was, like, so consistent. He got sub 230, I think, like, almost every week, if not every week, and he made it all the way until week 6, which is just, like, that's so impressive to me.
Also, I know, I guess if you want to touch on Daime real quick, and then I'll give my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, I guess. I don't know. Daime was someone that I don't want to say should have made top 8. That sounds sort of like a pundit line, but like he really should have. I think he was in a position to like at least be like, reaching for top 8, at least making it to week 6.5 or week 7, whatever you want to call it. Even be in the contention for the wild card, and he just kind of crumbled many weeks. Like, this isn't the only time it happened. You can see the previous week he actually did even worse. He got a 5-second worse time. It's like, it's just a disappointing performance for someone who should have been challenging people like Laser and Dragon and Anorak for that, at least the 8th spot, if not the 7th spot. So it's definitely unfortunate. And I guess it just speaks to like his no reset inconsistency, which is obviously huge because like this is just a great example of why the ladder league itself is not a direct representation of your PV. And like Anorak, who's, we can go into that race as well, but that's another perfect example. I mean, 2:26.35 again, he's like 4 minutes off his PB, and yes, he won, but like it really makes you like, you have to question whether you would consider picking him to win his top 8 match, because he just hasn't come close to his PB a single time.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I was talking to Dragon after his match, after the Anorak T-Fresh Dragon match, and I was saying like it's a totally different skill set. Running in ladder league versus like trying to get a PB, so it's definitely a lot different. And honestly, I don't even think Dragon in particular, who I was talking to about it, is like, I think he's actually pretty good at races. But I think so. That's another discussion that we'll have in a little bit. This was the Laser Daime Phantom match. I guess to start with Daime and Phantom, because they are leaving the tournament here. The kind of closest you can get to the top 8 without making it, besides what happened to T-Fresh. Like Daime, obviously it's a little bit of a disappointing tournament for him because he had one good time, which was like a 2:26, and he never put up anything really close to that after that. And he had like a 3-week streak before this week of missing pod fraud in a race, and I think he finally didn't miss it this week, but just didn't have a good run in general. So it's really tough for Daime, and I knew going into this race that he probably wouldn't win, but I also thought that maybe he'd still be able to get second, and it just never came around for him. So obviously a little bit of a disappointment in this tournament for Daime.
Yeah, I guess like 11th place is what he got.
Yeah, right? And his initial seed was 9. So like you would think that he might be the guy to potentially jump the top 8, like you were saying, but fell kind of short of even his initial seeding expectations, not even being that one who had the real chance. He had the wild card time as like that cutoff time for like a little bit, like 1 week, but it quickly fell away, and then Daime
Yeah.
really wasn't in the picture too much after that. And as for Phantom, I just agree with everything you said. Like, he's been playing extremely consistent during the ladder league. This was kind of the week for him to go out because beating Laser, especially when he gets a 223, is just
Yeah, I
not
mean,
going to
there's
happen.
just he had no chance,
Yeah.
but it's not really his fault.
Yeah, so same thing with Phantom. However, like, yeah, just really impressive in general how he outperformed his seed and got into a position to maybe even scrape in the top 8, which would be like an unbelievable shock if he was able to do that.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, obviously Laser had a really good run. This is like, I'm not saying this was my expectation for Laser Alternative, but I think like I was expecting Laser to get like a lot of wins and a lot of like times around this whole tournament, and he never has been able to, and he finally lives up to it in both this week and, or well, I guess both matches in week 6, right? So
Yeah, with his first ever tournament win.
as a big,
like, ever.
yeah, as a big Laser believer, he finally got his first tournament win. So I finally actually like won a prediction because of him.
Yeah, I kept predicting him and he just wasn't winning.
Yeah, his first ever tournament. Congratulations, Laser! First of all, just a
Yeah,
quick aside.
good job.
It only took you 2 years. We could move on because that was quite a bit of time talking about that one, and this was a lot more of a like down to the wire sort of race. That last one we talked about was kind of like not decided from the beginning because there was some weird like crash that Laser had and whatnot. So, but this one was a crazy one. The Anorak T-Fresh Dragon one.
Yeah, I actually rewatched a good amount of this race, like sort of like the last couple episodes, just because I wanted to see what happened. And obviously, you can talk about what the big thing that happened. But yeah, this race was crazy.
Yeah, I guess just to start out, like this race, basically Dragon. Let's just talk first 3 episodes, just having a phenomenal run. Like this could have been a PB sort of run. I think he had his best ever.
Wait, he got a low 107 or something, or maybe a high 107.
No, it was a 107.59, I think.
Yeah.
Which
is that might be the best episode 4 exit anyone's gotten all tournament, honestly.
Maybe I have no idea what Frost got week 1, but
yeah.
Either way, yeah, really good episode 4 exit, his best ever, and he was well ahead of T-Fresh and Anorak, who had both had struggling early games, and I think by like mid episode 6, T-Fresh and Anorak were basically even with each other. It took like a little bit of late 6 and early 3 for Anorak to gain some separation on T-Fresh, but still Dragon was many minutes ahead, and then obviously he had an over 8-minute Chancellor with a hard lock, and it, went from a 3-minute lead to a like 30-second deficit suddenly to Anorak. And, T-Fresh was even in it. I think he was like less than a minute off the lead, which kind of was crazy. Obviously, T-Fresh never really had a chance in this match. Even after the Chancellor moment, he never got closer. But, it was kind of a free roll for T-Fresh, right? Because if he wins, he qualifies. If he loses, he's still in next week. So he could kind of free roll, and there's no punishment for getting third. So not a terrible situation for him. But obviously, Anorak kind of threw away his advantage pretty quickly to Dragon. It wasn't until Falcon Flight, where Dragon had a really bad disaster on Boulder, that Anorak finally retook the lead. And then it came all the way down to Bespin, where I believe, I know you said you were watching. Was it a comeback win in Bespin, or was it Anorak holding the lead? I know it was weird because there was RTA difference and like LRT difference. It was like not matching up.
I know that someone got GTF second. I think Dragon got GTF second try with the respawn, and Anorak got it first try without the respawn.
Yeah. So it's kind of hard to...
And someone was like 20 seconds ahead, I think, into Bespin or something like that. Maybe. Like, it was pretty big.
Okay. Maybe Dragon.
I can't quite
remember.
I
don't know. Well, either way...
I think it was Dragon, but either way, yeah, I mean, the ending was just like... it literally can't really get closer than that, because it was the last thing in the run, which is bridge skip. And not even just bridge skip, but like the strat you do on bridge skip, which in Anorak's case was skipping the death, which technically Dragon could have done. I heard someone say he had 3 hearts, but you can get it with 2 damage boosts. Obviously it's risky, and like I probably would have done the same thing as Dragon, so like I don't blame him for that. I mean, I do blame him for hard locking and Chancellor, but you can't stop a clip farmer from clip farming, so what are you gonna do?
And I guess I'll ask you this question, because do you think Anorak got completely bailed out of a potential not making top 8 situation here? Like, If he
No, I mean,
didn't
I
win this
think
race, he would have to still beat the 2:25:26 or 27 that T Fresh had as the wild card time the next week. Obviously, like let's just say Laser puts up his 2:23:14, so Anorak doesn't qualify most likely as the 7 seed. So he still has to beat T Fresh's time. Does he
yeah.
get bailed out
So
here a little bit? Do you think?
so essentially, what we're looking at is like in the case of let's say Dragon just wins, okay, and then Anorak is playing Laser next week instead of Dragon. Laser would have won for sure. Like that time that Laser got wasn't a fluke. He even lost a ton of time at the end of the run, and it would have been not just can Anorak beat T Fresh. It would have been can Anorak beat T Fresh's wild card time in a no reset setting, and he's gonna lose to Laser. And the answer is no. He just wouldn't have probably, because if you look at Anorak's results, not only has he not beaten that time, I mean obviously, the entire ladder league, but he seems to perform really, really poorly under pressure. And like, how much more pressure can it be than it's not about beating someone, it's about beating a time in a no reset. Like, when do you ever have those sort of like circumstances where you have to like do a no reset and beat a certain time? Like, that's like, that never happens.
Yeah, so
it's
maybe
like the stakes cannot get
I can agree, and especially because it's he would have been trying to scrape for the 8 seed versus he is securely locked in as the 6 seed right now, which we'll get into the final bracket.
Huge, I mean, it's huge difference. Like, we even talked about this on commentary so many times, like towards the last couple weeks, but like the difference in the bottom few seeds is so important. And we were kind of worried even when we made the format where we were like, oh, well, are all the like bottom 4 seeds just going to end up being the same? But clearly they have not been.
I guess like in terms of the actual race, this was like a great cinematic ending to have. But obviously this on another end, this completely screwed over T Fresh. Like he was holding that kind of time where he was like, if Anorak doesn't qualify until week 7, then doesn't qualify as the main, as a winner of one of the races in run 1, then he had the leadership position of the wildcard time. And this essentially put T Fresh in a position where he either had to win the last match of the ladder, or had to, beat a 2:23 something like 2 minutes ahead of his PB, 4 minutes ahead of his board PB,
which isn't even his. And like the thing is, like T Fresh, if you think about it, right, if he needs to qualify to top 8, he needs to like kick someone out. Essentially, he needs to replace someone in top 8 out of those best 8 runners in the bracket, and his best chance was Anorak by far. Like there's no, like, he was not going to replace Dragon, he wasn't going to replace Laser. His best chance was Anorak for sure. I don't think anyone would have argued that. And so Anorak qualifying in the 6 seed is essentially the only thing that really just completely obliterated T Fresh's chances of like making it into top 8. He would have had to, like, even if we can pretend that Laser didn't put up like such a good time, Dragon beat T Fresh's wild card time, I believe.
I don't think he did, actually. He missed it by 2.
Oh, did he not? Okay. But either way, you would have been asking for T Fresh to like get that time that he got last week, which was a 2-minute PB again, essentially.
Yeah.
So it's like,
And then obviously because of that, I guess we can talk quickly or transition, to the last match, which is the Dragon T Fresh Laser. That caused, I guess we'll talk about T Fresh first. T Fresh to be in the situation where it was, a do or die, and honestly, T Fresh just like hadn't someone who lives with them. Right, he hadn't done much prep for this race. There wasn't a lot of time, and he didn't have much time to prep for this. So there's very minimal preparation done, and I kind of knew going in it was the end of him for this tournament. And obviously, you can't fault him for this tournament performance. He got 9th.
I mean, he got 9th, like
as the 15th.
That's
seed.
insane.
Like you can't.
Yeah.
Like we all know, T Fresh had some potential going in, but like finishing right outside the top 8 and honestly getting kind of robbed out of a really good chance at the top 8 is still like a really good.
Essentially missing out on top 8 because of a random 3-second like loss in the previous week into like a which was only caused by a hard lock. Like it's just that's just unlucky. But to even be in the position where you have to get super unlucky to not make it into top 8 just speaks to how much he improved like between that when the signups were announced and now, which is like, I know, I mean, I'm going to be brutally honest. I'm sure he wouldn't be surprised to hear this. Like, I don't think anyone really expected him to actually go through with like how much he was going to practice and improve and like get better.
Yeah.
So it's just nice to see because T-Fresh is someone who's been running the game for so long and like has run so many Lego games so proficiently that it almost feels wrong to not have T-Fresh at least like having a decent time in TCS, because it just like he is just like one of the oldest TCS runners in terms of how long they've been playing. And, he just shows like consistently across all the weeks that he's just mechanically one of the best like 1P2Cers and just performers in general in all of Lego speedrunning, and that he doesn't need to practice every day to be good at this game, which is surprising because I know T-Fresh, thinks he's really bad, but I mean, his times are much better than I was expecting him to get this tournament.
I was gonna say a little bit of glaze, but yeah, I understand. Yeah, T-Fresh definitely.
It's true.
Nothing to pout about this tournament, especially. I know he was a little disappointed, but
I think he was just more disappointed that in that last race that he couldn't just get a leaderboard PB. I think that's really what he wanted.
Yeah, fair enough. I will say as a little bit of inside info, I know you take T-Fresh's word with a grain of salt sometimes on what he's going to do, but he wants to continue doing any percent after the tournament. So
yeah, and I think
that's
like anyone who is a fan of TCS would love to see that because he is just like a unique runner, and I think it's cool to have people who do different strats. Even if I'm not a huge fan of double controller, it's interesting to see someone who like does it. I guess.
Yeah, the whole narrative during the tour. There was this like not the whole. This like one little meme side narrative of like, oh, I was gonna go play for T-Fresh. Honestly, if I played in his setup, I would do worse than him. Like, Not only does he have like a mechanical keyboard, which I like cannot play on, but he does double controller most of the time. So it's like I would actually just do worse on T-Fresh's setup. I thought that was funny. I'm like, how does he play in this setup? But
yeah, it's crazy.
A very rare double controller sort of, look in the tournament, and no one else does that really, except for Godfraud, obviously. In terms of the other racers, Laser, another back-to-back strong performance, which makes me believe like going into top 8, whether he was seed 7 or 8, I honestly was like concerned there's no chance for Laser, but this gives me some hope that there's a good chance for him. Like obviously we'll talk about his matchup when we get to top 8, but this is two low 223s in a row gives me some hope. Like there's a chance that Laser could make a run on the top 8. And as for Dragon, honestly, I don't think this race reveals oh, he's not as good or whatever. I think this is just proving that he's a very streaky player. Like he's a young runner, and I feel like we saw in the previous week. Obviously, he had the hard lock, which derailed everything, but we saw him have a near PB run up to Chancellor. Like that could have still beat his 221.11 into episode 3.
Yeah,
and then suddenly that happened, and then in this run, he had a really bad start and was never able to get it going. So I feel like with a good start, Dragon can be a really lethal runner in top 8, but with a poor start, it's going to be hard for him to get a good footing, and especially with this matchup in top 8, which we'll get into, he's going to need a really good start to that run to get a confidence boost.
And I mean specifically in that match, you say poor start, but that's almost putting it kindly. He missed ICS, he had a 546 invasion exit, and then I believe he missed Godfraud, and actually, I don't know. He might have hit Godfraud, but I just know that his episode 1 was horrible, actually terrible, and there's only so much you can do when you get off to a start like that, knowing that you're up against someone like Laser. I can speak from experience. When I was playing Evan last year, it's when you are facing someone who you feel is better than you, it's really easy to get discouraged very early on, and not even just early on, but even towards the end, you're oh, I'm 30 seconds behind into Dagobah. GG. I just lose. Even though that's not how it works. And when, as the viewer, as the commentator, as whatever, the neutral party, anything can happen. But when you are on the end that needs to deliver, it's very easy to just sort of mentally check out and be well, whatever. And especially in Dragon's position where he knows he's still going to qualify for top 8 anyway, and he talked about how he's getting a little bit burned out. I can see why he didn't start blazing through the entire run and mount a huge comeback. He was still kind of making mistakes in episode 3 and 5. So
do you kind of think that this is sort of the Dragon nightmare scenario where obviously he made top 8, which is good, but he kind of got obviously the lowest seed possible, and maybe is going into top 8 with the worst mentality possible right now? Maybe do you think this is kind of the Dragon nightmare scenario?
I think it's unfortunate because if you look at the four runners, or I guess rather than four, yeah, we'll say the four runners that we probably expected initially to be in the bottom half of top eight. So Harazmi, Anorak, Dragon, and Laser. Out of those four, Dragon not only is the fastest in terms of PB, but in terms of just like raw speed, he is the fastest runner out of those four. And if there's anyone who can sort of high roll like beating Frost in a race, you would have thought that it's Dragon. But now we're in a position where it almost feels so unlikely because of everything else.
Of
Like, yes, happened, mechanically it's possible, but realistically it just feels like there's no chance.
Yeah. I actually, before we move on to top eight, I know we were kind of touching it on before. I know there's kind of that superlative like sheet that all the mods and helpers filled out before.
Yeah, so
this is gonna take a like last little look here at the actual ladder part. I'll do like a more, as Zach brings that up, I'll talk about this. I'll do a more broad.
Actually, do you want me to send it to you so you can show it on screen? Maybe that would be better.
It's gonna take some.
No.
It's gonna take some.
Whatever. I'll just read it. I'll just read it.
Just read it out.
Yeah.
People can listen.
Yeah. So basically, the questions were, we obviously asked everyone. We asked, like, I think we put this in the mods and helpers chat. So there's 11 responses. We asked people who they thought would win. We had a selection for one to watch, whatever you want to call that. Is sort of just like, you know, who do you keep an eye on this tournament? Who's going to make a run? Who's going to impress everyone or surprise everyone? And then we had a slot for wildcard time. And the responses are really, really interesting. If I'll take a look overall and just sort of go over the winner responses, because I think these are the least interesting. 67%, 63%, sorry, said Frost. 27% said Justin, and 9% said Jared. And those are the only three people that were picked. Obviously, you know, now seeing that Senor got the 4 seed, I'm sure people's responses would have changed. Maybe they would have had Senor just as favored as Justin was, but it kind of makes sense. I mean, it's, you know, the three, you know, strongest runners, I guess you could say, in the actual top 8 bracket, right? Frost, Jared, and Justin. So I can see that logic. I'm a little surprised that Jared only had one response, which was me. But, you know, now I'd probably change my tune and say I think Frost is more likely to win, but you never know. And, like, you know, Jared's such a fast runner that anything can happen. So that was sort of an interesting one. But the more interesting one was definitely the one to watch question. There's a lot of different responses here. We have one person said Laser. One person said Flup, which we'll talk about in a second. One person said Twice Light. I think we all know who that was.
Said that.
One person said T-Fresh. One person said Anorak. And then we have 2 people that said Quasar. And then we have 4 people that said Dragon.
Okay.
So, do you want to quickly talk about Twice Light? Because, I mean...
Yeah, I kind of brought it up in the previous weeks. Let me scroll over here. Twice Light obviously had a rough tournament. It's no surprise, or it's not like, you know, something out of the blue that I'm talking about. He had a rough tournament. Like, he was rusty at first, right? So, like, week 1 and week 2, I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt. And then he started getting into it, like, in terms of offline or normal attempts. But his ladder league times still were improving. I think he had, what is his best ladder league time? This 2:29.50, where he kind of...
Yeah, and he PB'd by a lot, I think.
Not in that race. He PB'd a lot.
Not in that race. I'm just saying outside. Yeah.
And it just like wasn't there during the races. Like he kind of left the tournament on a choked best spin and a choked lead where T-Fresh missed.
Oh my god, I forgot about that match.
He missed Hot Rod this match and then came all the way back. Which, mind you, he would have been knocked out significantly with 4 rungs left. He would have been knocked out versus he made it to the last rung of the entire ladder.
T-Fresh escaped. I mean, that's crazy.
Crazy for T-Fresh, but obviously really like sad way to go for Twice Light. I know he's not happy about how the tournament went, but obviously he's showing he's got prospects to get big PBs outside of the tournament. I think that's kind of where my opinion lies on Twice Light, where it was like I picked him because I saw the potential, and I mean that's still there. It just
and there's such a small sample size, right?
Yeah.
Like he's done so few races that it's hard to say.
But but definitely like in terms of outside of ladder league, he definitely is still the one to watch in my opinion. I think he can still get a lot better time. It's just, you know, has to put the time in for it now.
Yeah, and then the other one, you know, that I guess you could call a little bit of a disappointment is Quasar. I'm sure you guys have talked about this in other recaps, but he had 2 separate people point him out as the one to watch. I think I was one of the people that picked him, and I think Evan also mentioned it. It's just like he looks like so strong and improving so fast, and obviously it's really unfortunate to see him go out so early because I do feel like he could have made a run all the way into top 8 if he kept improving at the rate that he was, which obviously is a big if, but I felt like it was possible.
I mean,
if he didn't,
he started the tournament with a 301 or 304 or something. Which, sorry,
Right,
didn't start the tournament, like, he started trying to qualify when it was a 304.
right when the signups went out,
And then,
yeah.
he has a 3-2x. So it's like, clearly you saw that potential. Like, everyone saw that potential. It just, like, wasn't seen on the no reset side of things, right? So,
And I mean, like, he even had a good run right in that last week, didn't he? Yeah, like a 231, which, like,
yeah.
maybe for our standards isn't insane, but like a 231, it's only like 3 minutes off his PB or whatever it was. I mean, it's unfortunate because, I mean, week 2, he went out in week 2, and that was someone that I feel like could have really, really made a deep run. But yeah, that was unfortunate. I guess obviously the big, like successful one to watch pick was T Fresh. I think people were right about that, considering there were, I think, one or two people that picked T Fresh, and that was definitely a good pick. 4 people picked Dragon, kind of an easy pick because, like, of course, Dragon's insane. We all know that he is just able to like do stuff like that.
Would you say that this has been a successful pick or no? Like, obviously, he could still make noise in top 8, but let's just say go on the assumption he loses against Frost. Would you say that's
because I think it definitely rides on his performance rate against Frost. Like, and I don't even think it has to do with necessarily if he beats Frost or not, because it would be like if Frost gets a 219 and Dragon gets a 220, like, you're not going to be like, wow, what a throw by Dragon, he got 8th. But at the end of the day, I do think Dragon was one of those runners that felt like he was on the edge of like bursting into the top 4 area, and he hasn't quite hit that peak. So maybe if I had picked Dragon as one to watch, which I didn't, but if I was one of those people that did, I think that would have meant more that I was expecting him to get in one of those first 5 seeds, not as the 8 seed. Like, the wild card, it's really not above expectations for where he was.
Yeah, I actually had him in my top. We aren't going to do it. Maybe we'll briefly talk about it in our top 8 predictions, but I got him right as the wild card, which I thought there was no chance.
Yeah, I had him as the 6 seed, and I was like, oh,
mind
he might
you,
even qualify faster than that.
Week 1 time he put up was the wild card time. We can actually transition to that part of the forum, but where is it? This 2:23:34? Or no, it was. Yeah, the 2:23:34 was the wild card time. So,
which is, I mean, that is a good time.
Yeah,
but you expect, okay, he gets a mid 223 in week 1. Now, and we're all immediately thinking, wow, I mean, he's got 7 more weeks potentially, like, what's he gonna do? But Hard Lock and Chancellor kind of tells a different story. I mean, let's take a look at the wild card times here. So people predicted, 2 people predicted a 223:43. That's crazy, actually. It was like you and Saber, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. I knew
you guys were the closest. And so that was the lowest time anyone predicted, and it was actually even faster than that. So I guess kudos to Dragon for beating out what we all thought would be the wild card time.
To be fair, though, I'll say, like, it could have easily been a 225 if Dragon had won, and then Laser had won.
That's true, and then T-Fresh and Anorak would have been fighting for the wild card spot.
So it could have easily been a 225 if it wasn't for the Anorak.
That's fair.
Win.
We also had someone predicted a 224:26, 224:38, 225 flat, 225:02, 25:13, 25:15, 25:25, 228, and then someone wrote Laser.
228?
I don't know what.
Well,
anyway,
besides the meme responses. It's all relatively in range. Like, that's pretty good.
Really, just mid 224 to mid 225 is where the bulk of the guesses were, and you could say that they were close. I guess, like, numerically they weren't close, but like you said, if Dragon had just won that race, then that is probably where it would have ended up. Yeah. So.
And I guess on that note, let's move on to our top 8 picks, because this is a pretty exciting top 8, and honestly, the past 2 weeks with Bricko and with Garrison, I've kind of gone in and made a top 8 bracket. I may have even done it with Frost. I don't exactly remember, but in both of those brackets, we had different people shuffled. Even last week with Garrison, I had the 6, 7, and 8 is totally different order is what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So a completely different look at what we've shown so far in the recaps at our top 8. And I guess before we talk about the actual matchups in week pick, maybe let's talk about we've already touched on it a little bit, but like each person and like their seeding and based upon where we expected them, how do you think they performed so far in the actual ladder portion? And I guess if we want to go just down the ladder here, or let's do it
Yeah,
maybe by seed order.
yeah, I
Do you
think
think?
that would make more sense.
So I guess Frost being the 1 seed. I mean, I think.
I mean, everyone expect like
Well, I think there's the thing is week going into week 1. I don't think everyone expected it. Like, I think
I
it was.
definitely did because
I
he had just gotten a
yeah,
219 in his no reset the day before that.
I
Like,
definitely favored Frost in that race, but I wouldn't say he was the unanimous like pick.
yeah, yeah.
Like,
I mean, it was relatively
I
even in
think
terms of the
everyone
odds.
had a bunch of different people, but like that week, his dominant performance week 1 kind of just solidified him as like the 1 seed and the favorite for this tournament, and then as well as obviously his PB attempts and his world record like really solidified him as he's the guy to beat. Which like going
Yeah,
in, I feel like it wasn't the case. So I think big props to Frost from going as he's the third seed going in, and yeah, maybe he's the favorite for week 1 just by a little bit, and he wasn't. He was odds wise, he wasn't. Um, and he went from I don't know, just a top 3 runner to like the runner to beat. So I think like a really good showing so far from Frost, and
mm,
obviously work to be done. Like we've only seen one race out of him. It's gonna be really
yeah.
interesting seeing him coming
I mean,
back.
I would like warn people with like, of course, I think I can tell that Frost is like clearly the strongest runner right now and seems to be extremely consistent. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets like a 218 or a
Mm-hmm.
19 in his next run. But I would warn people about sort of being too reactionary with like one or two performances because it's exactly what happened to me last year. I got a pretty good time in the first race, instantly qualified as the 1 seed, almost PB'd in my match against a hamster as the best time,
Mm-hmm.
which was still the best time anyone's gotten in a tournament until that Frost run. But then I came up against Evan, and when you are up against a runner that is scary and strong, which I mean he will be up against if he's able to beat Dragon, sort of like form kind of goes out the window, and you start to get nervous and things can
Mm-hmm.
go wrong. And remember, it's single elimination. There's one run, and one bad thing happens, and it's like you're just out.
Yeah.
So I would warn people about giving Frost like a 99% chance of winning the tournament just because he is good right now. You really never know what's going to
And
happen.
I bet Frost would agree with you too that there's definitely not that high of a chance of winning the whole tournament. Like
Yeah, I mean, it's still an uphill battle
yeah,
to win a tournament in this game, no matter how much better you are than anyone you're facing. It's you have
yeah.
to actually,
Like
put your money where your mouth
ultimately,
is.
like in the actual pick, like the odds that I was making, at the end of the day, Frost ended up being under 50% chance to win the entire tournament if we're taking into account every single other
Hmm.
person.
Right.
Because like at the end of the day,
Which
it
makes
could
sense. I mean,
it
yeah.
one mistake, like how Dragon soft locked in Chancellor, if that happens to someone
Yeah.
else,
Hard lock,
or sorry,
soft lock,
yeah,
like
yeah, I meant hard
literally
lock, but yeah,
anything.
one mistake could change everything. So you can't, write up Frost off as like a guaranteed win of the tournament, even of the first round. But anyways, still, my point was, props to Frost of putting himself in this position as kind of the person to beat, which I'm sure is a very strong position to be in going into top 8. I guess to talk about Jared now as the 2 seed. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a underperformance. I know he was the overall 1 seed going in because he had record, but I would say as the 2 seed, it's not like an extreme underperformance. Mind you, his times in the actual ladder were definitely a bit of an underperformance, but that's not like a surprise considering Jared's not the best racer. But
I
he's
mean, they were
in
better than last year.
yeah. I mean,
Like,
he's in the position where he wants to be right now. Obviously, you'd love
yeah.
you'd love to be the 1 seed, but as the 2 seed, you still have like I don't want to say control your destiny, but you still have 2 matches in a row against lower seeds, guaranteed. So he's in a position where it's in his control, sort of idea. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think about Jared kind of being the 2 seed? Do you think that's like an underperformance, overperformance, or
Yeah, I mean, it's what I
well,
expected. I
yeah,
had Frost as the one, the Jared as the two. I mean, it's pretty
Mhm.
much what I was expecting to happen. And to be honest, like I think it's easy to sleep on Jared because he has these bad race performances. What you have to remember is that just because you perform badly in no resets typically doesn't mean you're going to perform badly in every single no reset you do,
Yeah.
even if it's a race. And like Jared could just beat Frost if he played him right now. There's no way you could argue against that. Like it could just happen. So I think Jared should be the 2 seed, and he is, and I think he deserves to be it, and that's what I expected. So there's not much more analysis I can do than that. Like, it's just what I thought would happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then we move on to Razzie, which is, I mean, arguably the biggest shock here in the top 8 is
biggest shock,
is being the 3 seed, which, I mean, going in, definitely thought like 5 seed or below for Razzie, maybe a sneaky 4 seed, but like
I am as the wild card.
as the 4 seed going into the tournament, I honestly thought in my mind that he was probably going to be the one I matched up against in round 1 of top 8. Obviously not the case, but I was kind of not. I mean, I can't prepare for it other than improving my own, TCS. But I was preparing like, all right, I'm probably going to play Razzie in round 1, sort of the favorite outcome. It obviously didn't happen. He overperformed everyone's expectations, or most people's. I mean, some people might have picked him as the 3 seed, but overperformed a lot of people's expectations by getting the 3 seed. And we'll talk more about, the actual match itself in a minute, but I would say he very much overperformed and, put on good times in the ladder. Is this, I guess, I guess you already agreed with me this was a big overperformance, so I don't really need to go ask you the same question again. I guess we can kind of just move on, but yeah. Obviously everyone...
It's pretty obvious, I
agrees. In terms of me, I mean, I think a lot of people picked me as the 4 seed. I picked myself as the 4 seed. I got the 4 seed. I think this was
because I think people thought Justin would get the 3 and then you would just get the 4. So maybe that's not exactly how it worked out. Like, yes, you did have to beat Justin to get it, but I think I don't think that means you overperformed necessarily even in that match. It's just Justin underperformed.
I would say this is exactly where I expected myself to end up at the beginning of the tournament. Like, obviously I had hopes of potentially getting like the 2, like I had an opportunity at the 2 seed. But I really fumbled that race, and honestly, I'm still disappointed about that race because like I easily could have gotten it, but because Jared did not have a good winning time that week. And obviously I'd love to be in the 2 seed rather than the 4 seed right now, so my own fault there. But yeah, I'm not like up until this point in the tournament like feeling amazingly overperformed or terribly underperformed to where it should be. And I guess it's kind of moving on to the next person, Justin, maybe the opposite. Where he thinks definitely a bit of an underperformance for Justin as someone who going in, a lot of people might have had as their 1 seed or 2 seed, dropping all the way to the 5 is. You could
literally see how disappointed he was with his own performance if you just go read some of the stuff he was saying. Like, I don't blame him necessarily for being disappointed in himself. Maybe he overreacted a little bit, especially because at the end of the day, right? If you want to win the tournament, you have to beat everyone. And you shouldn't really care about what your seed is if you feel like you're good enough to win the tournament. Yeah. So, when you're obviously like, there's a lot I have to say about Justin and the situation he's in. We had this conversation, a couple weeks ago about like Justin is the only one of the 4 of us that were, in BTR 21 that hasn't won a tournament yet. And it's hard to say if he still has that hunger to do it, but you have to expect there's something in it. I mean, he knows that. He knows that he's the only one that hasn't done it yet. And, arguably is like the greatest runner in the history of the category. You'd think that he would have that to like sort of solidify his legacy, right? But he doesn't. And I feel like, if this is the summer where he really wants to finally give it his all, and maybe he'll, do other stuff and not focus as much on it later on, then this is sort of what you want to be the last thing to really solidify your legacy. And I also think it would be such a cool story if he did, to like finally take home a tournament in this year of all year when he's finally not the favorite anymore. He's sort of had to fight tooth and nail to get through the ladder stage. And so it would be cool to see, but obviously I'm not going to say I'd rather see him beat you, but like hopefully one of you guys can do it.
I've said this before when everyone's predicting my matches. I take no offense to if you pick someone else when you're picking my matches, like, and that just don't feel pressured to take me just because I'm here. Because I will always agree that I suck. So,
I believe that.
Yeah,
I guess that's maybe I didn't make it concise, but I think yes, Justin did underperform, and he knows that, and he's upset about it. But now it's a clean slate, right? Now it's a single elimination bracket. Now it's a chance to be like, I want to win this tournament, I have to beat Frostbite. I have to beat Jared. I have to beat Cinar,
Yeah.
who, in my opinion, are the three strongest people left in the bracket outside of Justin. So if he's going to do it, then what a way to do it would be.
All right, I guess moving on to Anorak, who honestly, just like who he's playing Erasmus, very like surprised to me that he's in the sixth seed. If you told me at the beginning of the tournament he's gonna be the sixth seed, I would have been like, okay, that makes sense. And I actually had him as a pick to not make the top eight at the beginning of the tournament. He does, but where as the tournament progressed, if you told me Anorak was gonna get the sixth seed, I'd be pretty surprised. Like it's like Anorak will probably agree he has not had a good like tournament match yet. Like I don't think a lot of the time his expectations like high, and I agree. And honestly, I agree with his expectations. What I've seen in PvE attempts, but it's never lived up to it in the no reset setting. And I don't want to start an early. I mean, is it early? Is it an early narrative that Anorak's not a good racer? I don't know.
Well, it's not early because it's just been the case since he started racing. And
Yeah,
it is true.
yeah.
So like, it's just true.
Obviously, he'll have like as the sixth seed, and what happened to Dragon, kind of a blessing to be in this position where he's gonna have a chance to prove people wrong here and potentially make a run in the top eight, which I feel like from going as someone who like there's going into the let's just say going into Chancellor in that week 6 match, his probability of making top eight was probably under 50%, which is at the lowest.
Probably under 10% because if Dragon hadn't hardlocked, he would have had to beat. The only way is if he would have beaten T
at the best
wildcard
ladder time in the tournament.
So actually, when you think about it, Anorak was around 3 seconds away from just not even making top eight, really.
Yeah.
So I think he not only did he catch a lucky break, but also like was the closest person here to not making it at all. So when you say you like thought he might not make it, I don't think that's unreasonable to say. I mean, it almost happened. So,
but and now in a change of events, now he has, like I said, a real opportunity to prove himself and be like, hey, you know what? I deserve to be here, and he has a great chance against Harasmi in round 1, and maybe even another match in the semifinal. We'll talk about that when we talk about the actual matchups and predictions for our matchups. So I guess we'll move on to Laser as the 7 seed, and I mean, if you I personally predicted Laser as the 5 seed as a bit of a upset pick for him to go a little bit earlier than where I thought he would go. Him as the 7 seed is kind of exactly where most people had him, honestly, going into the tournament. How he got the 7 seed maybe isn't exactly how people thought it was going to happen, but now he's on a little bit of a momentum ride of 2 low 223s in a row going into top 8, and facing Jared, who hadn't had great times so far in the ladder. So honestly, I'm not surprised that Laser is the 7 seed at all. Do you agree on that, or do you see it differently?
I think he honestly deserved to get an even better seed than he did, but the ladder was weird and maybe not kind to him. At the same time, it's his own fault that he performed extremely badly in that one race. I think it was week 5 or something. I can't remember which specific week it was, but that week where nothing even really happened to him, he just played 4 or 5 minutes off his PB. And I think that was a wake-up call for him where he was like, wow, I need to not play Pirates Bingo with Gus, the entire week before my match, and instead actually practice because this is important. And he showed us that he is one of the best Lego runners in the entire community. Yeah. And I think it'd be stupid to argue against that. If Laser can keep this momentum up, that's the exact type of, upward trend you need to be on. I mean, we'll talk about it maybe later very soon, but he has set himself up in a really, really good position to make one of the most historic upsets in all of Ladder League.
Also, I mean, we'll talk about it more, but when we're talking about the actual matchups, but people's path to the finals or path to winning the tournament, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Definitely Laser is someone with potentially a path that is ideal, I guess. I don't want to put it that way.
Yeah.
Because it really is no
it's
ideal.
Realistic.
Realistic, yeah. That's a good word for it. Anyways, we'll talk about Dragon real quick. Obviously, if you said after week 1, when Dragon put up the 223-34 leapfrog to wrong one, that Dragon was going to get the wild card time, that that would just shock me. I mean, honestly, in my recaps, when I was doing every recap, I would go with my guest, and go, hey, how's your top 8 going? And, every time I'd look at mine, it would be all right. I got myself right. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to get anything else. Dragon as the wild card was something I'd thrown out as even a possibility. And then suddenly Dragon is the wild card. Like, and obviously this is a big downswing for him. And obviously, like mentally, I would just he's expressed how disappointed he is. But obviously, at some point, if Dragon wanted to win the tournament, he's probably gonna have to play Frostbite. So he has a unique opportunity here to pull off obviously the biggest upset of all time in the TCS tournament. And there's no doubt we've talked about that he has the skill to play really well and put up a time that Frostbite's gonna potentially struggle with. So I feel like as discouraging as it may be for him, he has an opportunity to pull off an insane upset. I guess before, yeah. What do you think about? I guess we kind of touched on it, but with Dragon being,
I think it's just unfortunate because if you look at it, if Dragon had gotten the same time in week 2 as he did in week 1, he would have been the 2nd seed, right? And like, if he was the 2nd seed, then I would be like, Dragon could win the tournament.
Yeah, Dragon could make the final.
You would have never seen any of these bad performances he had after week 2 because he would have just qualified. So he wouldn't have been burnt out. 2, he would have had like the easiest path possible. And 3, it's Dragon, who I think we all have a lot of confidence. Even still, we have a lot of confidence in him after these bad performances and him almost like falling upwards into top 8. He like stumbled into it.
Yeah.
Which is not, the way we expected him to like, trip over the finish line essentially. But that is what happened. And so now we're in a completely different scenario. And I think we already said it when we were kind of going over like the ones to watch and stuff, because like he is disappointed about it. I think most people can understand why, and he probably wanted better than that. But like I said, for Justin, again, it's a clean slate. You win this one match and you're on top of the world. You can do anything, especially if you eliminate the favorite to win the tournament, like it's anyone's game at that point, right? And why not the person who beat him? So
yeah. I guess on that note, since we're already talking about it, let's start doing our picks here. So we'll go like match by match. We'll each pick our winner. And then we can, if we have bracket changes, like if like I pick someone, Zach picks someone else, we can obviously just adjust for that later on. But I'm pretty sure we have a very similar bracket. At least I have in my head. I haven't filled out the form yet, so there's a chance I make last second changes, but I'm going to go with what I think as well. So we'll start with this Frost and Dragon matchup, which obviously, like, if you were to tell me, like, Frost versus Anorak, Frost versus Laser, like, or Frost versus T-Fresh, like, I'm saying Frost wipes in all those matches. Like, but Dragon is a unique runner where I feel like he can play above his skill level on a given day, and, like, I see a lot of meat in Dragon where, like, he's very streaky. Like, he can play extremely well for a long period of time, and then, like, one thing goes wrong and it kind of crumbles. Like, I feel like I see a lot of me in him, where, like, if he's on a really good day, Frost could be in trouble. Like, I feel like if we see the sort of performance he had for the first, like, first 3/4 of the run in week 6, match 1 or whatever, the Anorak match, Frost could be in a little bit of difficulty if he's not on a great run, which there's no guarantees on a no reset.
I think it's interesting because you said you see a lot of yourself in him. It's like, well, you've won 2 tournaments. So obviously that is the type of playstyle that can be successful. And like at the end of the day, I think if Dragon does have a good run, the real problem that he faces is that Frost can beat a good Dragon run with a bad run.
Yeah.
That is the problem, right? Like Frost getting a 221, he won't be happy about. He'll be disappointed in it. He'll feel like that was really bad. And then he could just beat Dragon's PB. Yeah. And then it's like, yes, Dragon, maybe his PB isn't perfect for him, but beating your PB in a no reset is like, doesn't happen very often, especially in a race, especially in a top 8 race. That's single elimination. I mean, like there's, it to me, it feels like if you were going to pick one match, maybe it sounds obvious, but if you're going to pick one match in these quarterfinals that is like over a 90% chance of one person winning, I think it's Frostbite taking this one home. Especially with the burnout he's talked about, and just, I would be really, really impressed if Dragon did it. And I think if we were sitting here saying this 4 weeks ago, I would feel a lot better about it. But now I feel like my confidence is a lot lower in him. And I hope he does, of course, because it would be insane to see. And I hope he doesn't like hear this and be like, oh, no one believes in me. Because like, we know how good Dragon is. And I think he's proved it so many times. With that week 1 time, it's like no one expected that. And he comes out and he's like, here's a time that's almost my PB in the first week of ladder league. Maybe what he needs is to just be like, all right, I've made it into top 8. It's time to reset. It's another stage. It doesn't matter what happened in the previous 7 weeks, which is like, it's crucial mentally. Obviously, he said he wanted to get this match over with, but maybe it's good that he's, has to take some time before he actually plays, and it could help him out. But
yeah, definitely. I guess it's last thing to mention about this match is that Frost, obviously, he's going to be going for Godfrey. I think Dragon will likely not be, unless he really tries to learn it in the next few days, like thinking I need to learn it to beat Frostbite. Mind you,
he won't.
Okay.
He won't learn.
I think everyone will be doing Godfrey on the top 8 besides Dragon and
I don't think Kharazmi will do it.
I think those are the only 2, but everyone else should be doing Godfrey. But anyways, I guess for the actual pick of this match, we keep talking about it. I'll actually make a definitive pick. I'll say
I would be stupid to go with anything besides Frostbite.
Yeah, so I think how this race is going to play out is Frost and I think Dragon will have a good start, but obviously he's going to be behind out of pod race most likely, and I think he'll keep it close for a while, maybe even save a time on a few episodes to Frost, but I think it'll be a matter of some point like 4 or 6 or 3 where there's going to be a time loss that's just a little bit too much for Dragon, and I feel like it'll be like, oh, he's with him pretty much within like a minute the entire time, and then he hits like a 20 or 30-second time loss, and then it just snowballs, and in 5 will be like a Frost takeover and win by like 2.5, 3 minutes, maybe more, sort of situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Frost wins this one. I feel like most people are gonna have this. It would be insane to see the upset here. Dragon obviously has the opportunity for the biggest upset of all time in any tournament, Lego speedrunning tournament. So we'll have to see, but hopefully get some motivation for that. I'm guessing you picked Frost as well. Before I move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's the match between myself and Justin. Honestly, this is happening literally tomorrow as we're recording, like 24 hours from now. This is going to be like, it has to be the most common matchup in a tournament at this point. Like
it is.
There's no way it's not. And obviously, there's so much history between me and Justin, considering out of the runners in this tournament, and honestly who are running now, we're the ones who've been running the longest. And it's going to be another like historical, tournament matchup between us. And in the past, I think. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Justin has.
I mean, you definitely
twice.
have a winning record.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And we're not talking about like ladder league. In the actual final top 8, we've played. He beat me the first tournament once, and then I beat him twice, and then he beat me in season 3 once in the top 8. It was in the winner's side, so I still went to the losers bracket.
But you didn't play him.
No, I lost to Evan. It was that crazy Bespin. I've talked about this so much, but we both went into Bespin like tied, and I golded, and I was like, yes, I won. And then I saw he CG'd Bespin. Yeah. And I was like, no way. And that was actually my first tournament loss. But anyways, I can talk about that for a long time, ramble on. But yeah, once again, a really, really historic matchup here, and I'm super excited. Just to have this opportunity to face Wii Super. Obviously, like I was in a dream world, I'd hope this is the final, but it's gonna have to happen here in the first round of top 8. Just not this situation where we're the best 2 runners in this game by far anymore. In terms of the actual matchup, I guess I might have you go first here, so that when I go second, I can give you maybe some insight on myself. Because obviously,
I think what I'm gonna say is just gonna be correct. But anyway, my sort of here, I'll tell you what I did on the prediction form, which is that I picked you, and the reason is because I feel like it's kind of a 50-50 for me, and I'd rather take the better value pick. Now, the reason I would say it's like 55% maybe in favor of Justin is only because his last no reset time was really good, and I think confidence and momentum plays a huge part in rivalries. So like I can only say this because every time I've played Evan, it feels like the recent results, and maybe not the recent results, but rather the momentum and like who's feeling it, who's feeling better, who's more confident, always ends up winning. And like it's just like when I played Evan last year, I think the reason I lost is because I believed he would win. And I think confidence plays such a huge part when you have a personal rivalry with someone.
Mhm.
Because if Justin goes into the match believing there's no way I lose to Cena, or my PB's better,
Yeah.
my race times are better than his like most of the time, then he will probably be able to do it. But if you do the same thing and go in believing that you are going to win, then it becomes a race. And like I think that's why I hope at least that whether both of you are prepared or not, because that's sort of like an extenuating circumstance, I just hope that we get two people who actually believe they can win the race and that really try and take the tournament home, because whoever wins this match I think has a much higher chance than people think of actually winning the entire tournament.
Yeah, and I think on both sides.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I was just gonna say that's why I picked you on the predictions form, but I don't really have like a preference for who gets picked in this sort of bracket.
I was gonna say, on both sides, I think there's always you have to think about what have they done before this match in terms of preparation. I feel like there's question marks on both sides. Obviously I can clear up my side a bit. Justin, I'm not sure. In terms of Justin, at least what I know is obviously he just went to the Austin Major and he has had he just had to like on the fly move. So he just did his first stream back yesterday and didn't really get anything going, which I mean that's understandable. He's still he's still trying to PV. He's not just doing streams to just like practice for laterally. He wants the PV. He's doing this Minecraft month soon, so it's like he wants to have a good TCS PV at the end of the day. But so I'm questioning his preparation just because I don't know what he has done since coming back from the Austin Major in terms of like everything after episode 4, basically like the back half of the run. Historically, he's been good at it, but I'm not sure what he's done in terms of completed runs. So it's a little concerning to me on that point. Obviously, I'd say, oh, it's good for me, but like as a neutral, it's a little concerning on Justin's preparation. I'm not sure where he's at. Obviously, as a neutral, you'd also be a little bit like concerned on my preparation. I obviously haven't done like too many completed runs recently. I actually finished one today before Zach was actually watching it. It wasn't like the great. It was at the end of the day, it probably would have been a 22 if I had soft locked in Hoth, which was completely my fault. The soft lock, by the way, but that's a separate thing. So I'm like I'm happy with that, but at the same time, it felt like a really bad run. So, I have high standards, but 22 would be pretty decent in terms of if I got a 22 against Justin this race.
Yeah, I can see that being one of the times that you guys. I don't know if that'll be the winning time. But
yeah,
I think
you never know.
We'll
like,
probably get around that.
Like the thing is, I think a lot of this match, like the sort of standard for this match, is going to come down to Godfrey, and I feel like me and Justin are both players who are like okay at the trip, but we're not like
6
amazing.
out of 10.
Like like we could see a complete disaster. Like I've never had a complete disaster in the tournament yet of Godfraud. Justin had one. I don't even think it was Godfraud, it was Podfraud, but he's had like one complete pod race disaster. But both of us aren't like we aren't the sort of like Anorak or Zach or I don't even know who, Jared, who like are gonna get that first lap and third lap skip, and it's kind of expected that you get both of them. I feel like in the tournament we've seen a lot of both of us hit lap 1 or miss lap 3, or one of us miss lap 1 and get lap 3. It's like kind of a, we get 1 out of 2, or there's some faults on pod race. It's very rare to see. Like, I would be surprised, honestly, I'd be surprised if both of us hit full Godfrey on this match. It would be awesome to see that. But I don't know if that's going to be the case. And I feel like that's going to be an early tone setter in kind of like shaping the race. And like obviously our match last time, I went ahead because he missed Godfrey. He just like, it was a situation that's a lot different than I think this match, where he was grinding every day, and he was like, and I was rusty, I'll put it in quotes, because like I'd done a little bit of work, but I hadn't really completed a run in a while, and he was able to kind of catch up throughout the run until 5, where I pulled I pulled a pretty big lead out at the end, but that's when he was playing a lot, so I'm not really sure. He hasn't played in a minute, so I'm questioning his late game. So I would say, like, it's really, determining on pod race is going to set the tone, and after that, I think it's anyone's game. Anyone could come back, or anyone could, I hate to... It's honestly like a 50-50 race for me.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Like, it just is a 50-50, and, like, you can take whoever you want here. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to even say my pick. I'm going to go with myself, because I'm a believer in, picking myself.
I mean, it makes sense, because, like, That's what I
Yeah.
predicted too. I think if I had to give an edge, I would give it to Justin.
Yeah,
So like
I
maybe if
agree.
I was
Just
making this bracket, I would pick him, but you know, the
uh,
value of
yeah,
picking you is
I
definitely
would
better
give
in
the
the
slight edge
predictions
to
for him.
Justin, obviously because the PV, but I kind of like negate that edge just a little bit just because his questionable preparation for this race. I maybe he's live right now. I'm not entirely sure, but if he's not, it's a little concerning because he's gonna have like less than 24
He's
hours.
not.
Yeah, he unless he's doing offline prep, which I mean I'm not a stranger to that. I do
Well, I
that,
can
but
give you a small amount of inside info, and I can confirm that we were having a discussion about Minecraft Overworlds like an hour ago. So
okay, yeah. I like obviously
no,
Justin
but
is
yeah,
transitioning into doing his Minecraft month, so it's like how like much preparation he's gonna have. I'm not sure. That's why it kind of negates the PV difference to me, and it'll be an awesome race. So obviously historic rivalry. I guess I'll end it on that. I've said that so many times at this point. Gonna be an awesome race. Moving on to the Harass Me Anorak match, which might be honestly one of the most unique sort of matchups that I don't think anyone expected this to be a first round matchup in top eight. Um, and especially the ways that I feel like Harass Me got here by complete overperforming, and Anorak got here. I'm not going to say by luck. I feel like that's rude to say he just got here by luck. He
I
did win
mean
the
it
race,
was pretty much
you
that
know.
is basically
And
what
Anorak got
happened. To
here
be honest,
like he kind of got into top eight just luckily a bit. And you know what? Like this is going to be a really unique race because I want to talk about like preparation. Obviously, before I feel like it's the exact opposite of both these runners. I think Anorak, who has been playing day in and day out, Harass Me is a big question. I don't know if you have insight on Harass Me, but I
I
don't know
do.
if he's played at all. Um,
Yeah,
or if he's
I
just
can tell
practiced.
you
Yeah, you can go
the
ahead.
situation with Harazmi is that he has not played the game and like pretty much since he qualified, like
Yeah.
at all. Um, and I know that his motivation's pretty low to play.
Hmm.
Um, at the end of the day, I mean, it's hard for me to say whether that plays a factor because it's something that I probably will talk about again when we get to the semifinals, but expectations are so important. Like they play such a big part
Hmm.
in your mentality. And we are at a point where it feels like Harasmi's not necessarily expected to win anymore. It's like kind of a toss up. Like maybe, yeah, he's favored, but
Yeah.
Frostbite is expected to win, right?
Yeah.
Jared is expected to win. You wouldn't say Harasmi's expected to beat
Yeah. I would
Anorak.
agree.
Like it's hard to really say that. And that could be in Harasmi's favor because I think he performed the best, this year when the odds were sort of against him, when people felt like he didn't have what it took to beat Justin or to like show us that sort of consistency. But then he pulls out PBs and like 222s in the ladder. And I think if he can do it then I don't see why he can't do it again.
Yeah.
That being said, I did not predict him. I did predict Anorak,
Yeah.
which I can see as some people calling sort of like a hot take. But the reason I did that is because I feel like Anorak has a sort of like chip on his shoulder where
Mhm.
I think that Anorak it has that hunger to go far in this tournament still,
Mhm.
that despite the poor performances we've seen from him in the ladder, it never looked like he wasn't trying to win. He
Yeah.
was always trying his hardest and like practicing. He was even setting PBs and like you could tell that the motivation was there and it doesn't look like it's gone anywhere. So for
Yeah.
me, the sort of desire and need to win this match is just in Anorak's favor, and that's sort of what like swings it over the line
Yeah.
for me.
Honestly, it's like the clash of two opposing forces here, where it's Harazmi, who might not have the best motivation right now, and Anorak, who I believe, like you said, has like a chip on his shoulder and wants to go out and prove like I deserve to be in the top eight and I deserve to be moving far into this tournament. Versus, and also like Anorak might not be the best racer versus Harazmi has proved he can play PB level and better in a race. So it's like it's two very conflicting sort of types of runners here. It's very interesting. Like I think I'm gonna follow here and pick Anorak and just go for he's gonna be hungry to win this match, and even though he's not the best racer, I feel like this is the week where he proves like, hey, I'm here in the top eight, and I think he's gonna put up a time that's gonna surprise a lot of people. And no matter who wins the Jared Laser match, people will consider like, hey, he might actually be able to make the final here, which would be a really like crazy thing to even say. Like versus like a couple weeks ago or a couple days ago where he could have been out of the tournament completely versus he might even have a chance at the final here maybe. Yeah, could even be something people are saying. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Anorak here as well. I'm gonna go with the surprising upset here. I wouldn't even say it's not even a surprising upset. It's like
It's just a mathematical upset, right? Like
yeah,
more
mathematical
people
upset.
expect,
I'm gonna go with
Harassment to win.
Anorak as well. And then that moves us on to Jared versus Laser, which honestly, like I think you said this word earlier. Realistic. Like this is a realistic huge upset that could happen. Like with Dragon, it obviously like on paper, it's probably about the same odds, just like it's similar odds on paper between Dragon and Frost and Laser and Jared. But like with Dragon, it's not really realistic because Frost is playing so well, and the motivation's high and momentum's high for Frost and Dragon. It's the opposite. But for Jared and Laser, Laser's coming with momentum. Jared obviously had the big performance at the major with his trumpet and Hanone Pixel stream. But in terms of TCS, I'm not really sure. He's streamed a little bit, but I'm a little concerned at where he's at right now.
Well, actually, an interesting stat that I'm just going to go look at real quick is that there's 3 people in the entire 26-person ladder league bracket that have not PB'd since signups closed, and Jared is one of those 3 people, and one of the other people is like Nolan,
Yeah.
So like it's like Zoda, Nolan, and Jared, and I that's not an insignificant stat. Like that matters, and I think it's hard for me to predict against Jared here, of course, because it would need to be such a strong performance from Laser, but I do think that Laser has the best opportunity out of anyone to make like just a crazy. I said it on commentary yesterday. Like I said, like a Mongols-esque run to the finals. Where it's like you've got Frostbite, who's Vitality at the top there. Everyone expects him to cruise through the tournament and take it home, and Laser.
Does this
maybe
mean I'm
he takes
Navi?
out. He takes out Jared, and it's like, well, okay, he took out Jared. I mean, what else is he gonna do? But then, boom, he goes into the next matchup, and now his PB's better than both the people in that quarterfinal. And it's like, well, why can't he go to the final? And then now you're in the final, and
why can't you win?
The truth is, when you're in the final, you can win the tournament.
Anyone,
There's always a chance. Yeah. Well, maybe not Sid Kid, but anyone else.
Yeah, especially not Sid Kid. But yeah, no, I honestly, I'm in that same boat as you, where like for Jared, it's historically, it's interesting talking about Jared. Historically, he's not been a great racer, but also if you want to look at everyone on his side of the bracket, he's the only one with top 8 tournament experience here. Laser, mind you, just won his first tournament match recently, yeah. So it's like it's hard to really say like as all this momentum towards Laser. Historically, like Jared has the experience, and Laser is, only won 2 tournament matches. Yeah.
To me, it reminds me of exactly what I was just talking about. How in that bracket where the Mongols made the run to the final, everyone was like, "Wow, FaZe has like such an easy bracket. They're just gonna make the finals for free." And you're like, "Well, Jared, I mean, look at these people. Like, there's no way he doesn't make it. He gets a free run at the finals, and all he has to do is have one good run against Frostbite, and it's a tournament win after redemption, after losing to Evan in the grand finals, choking a lead into Bestman, all that stuff." But then at the same time, it's like, well, if Jared gets his seed taken by Laser, you have to say the same thing now. And to be honest, I feel like there is a decent chance. I can't say that I would predict Laser to win, but I'm definitely like closer than it maybe appears, numerically. Like I wouldn't say he has like a 1 in 8 chance to win. Like I think it's better than that.
Yeah. Is your pick here Jared? Just judging by, or
I guess it's Jared, but I would say like just because I'm picking Jared here doesn't mean I don't think Laser will do it. I just think that maybe like 6 times out of 10 it would be Jared.
I agree.
It's hard to really say.
Dude, I looked at your picks before because I hadn't made mine, and my picks were the exact same as yours, like literally exact same. And I'm like, it would be so lame to have a video like this. And honestly, where we have the same exact picks, I'm gonna do something crazy. And honestly, I've been doing it all term. I've been a Laser believer. I've been a believer.
I have been too. I'm not opposed.
Yeah. Oh no, I know. I agree. I know. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take it to the next level, and Laser's gonna hate me for saying this because I know he does not like when I pick him because usually my picks are wrong. I'm gonna say Laser has a shocking upset here and pulls off the upset and beats Jared. Like I think Jared's a great runner, and I think he's gonna do great things and maybe even get record back. But I think today he's or when the match happens, he's going to be outmatched by Laser, and it's just going to be a kind of surprising upset. But like the realistic upset kind of happens, and then Laser's in a position where now he's facing in my bracket Anorak, and it's like what the heck, Laser or Anorak are going to make a grand final of a TCS tournament,
Right.
Kind of a
I think one of
crazy
them
scenario
would,
in my book. But yeah, we'll
I
move
mean,
on.
that's a.
Oh yeah,
Why
go
don't we
ahead.
talk about that semi first?
Do you want to talk about that
Because
semi first? Okay.
yeah, because that to me is the interesting one because like in my opinion, the winner of quarterfinal 4 will make the finals for sure. Like, I think there's
You
no
think so?
chance that, like, because think about this, right? If Laser beats Jared, there's no way he goes out to Harazmi or Anorak at that point. He's going to
I
be
will
feeling
say
himself. He's
though,
going to be feeling confident. Like, there's no way.
I disagree on that. I feel like if it's Laser versus either Anorak or Razmi, I feel like at that point it's kind of blown like everything out of the way. It's an anyone can win sort of game at that point. I feel like
Yeah.
Anorak and Laser go into a 1v1 race in a semi-final of in the tournament. I think anything can happen. Nerves are going to be a factor. I think I want to pick Laser again, but I'm gonna go crazy, and I think I'm gonna pick Anorak. Or in your case, you have Jared, but
Here,
I'm gonna
here's my argument.
yeah.
If we are saying that Anorak beats Harazmi, there is no way Anorak has 2 good runs in a row when he has had 0 so far.
Yeah.
There's no way that
I'm
happens.
gonna going
Like,
on this like crazy side train that I never thought I'd actually
this is
pick.
like max points, like
We're
you
going
know,
max points deluxe right now.
min maxing your point total.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, yeah, that's definitely like obviously I had Jared, and so I think you'd probably agree that if Jared wins that match, then he'll probably
No,
dispatch of Anorak
I
pretty
agree.
easily.
I agree.
So
Because I feel like
there's no point even.
this sort of structure that stays where like the expected favorite wins. Now it's Jared versus
Yeah.
Anorak. Anorak's going in. I'm probably not going to win. Jared's going in. I'm confident. I feel like that. But if Laser wins, I feel like that's all out the window. Like I feel like there's no.
I can see that, but I do think in my bracket I have to say
Yeah.
well, Jared's gonna win that
Yeah.
match because when you really think about it, like Jared's mentality has improved so much within the last like year and a half, and yes, his top 8 performances aren't the best, but like you said, he's the only one in that side of the bracket who has top 8 experience, and that
Yes,
matters.
I
Like
agree.
nerves, understanding like the importance of like an elimination match. If you look at Harazmi, has he ever played in an elimination match? I'm pretty sure he never has. Like,
Yeah.
so it's just it's different, and I think like experience is almost paramount in situations like this. We rarely see. I mean, pretty much we never see someone in Anorak's position who's like super new and like has never really been in the playoffs of a tournament before come in and just win.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
I guess I did that in my tournament, but like I had record, right? So it's like when you don't have those accolades behind you to support you, it's hard to find that confidence, which we just know Jared will have.
Yeah.
No matter how poorly, even if he beats Laser and gets a 226, he's still, for whatever reason, going to be confident in the next match. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
If I was picking without content and my own prediction standings in mind, I would definitely think Jared is gonna comfortably, like, maybe there's a couple matches that are a little touch and go throughout the match, but I think by the end of the match he wins both his matches here in the top 8 going to the finals with like over a minute win in both matches. And I think that would be my normal pick if I didn't love content and I didn't love, coming back in the prediction standings. And I definitely think my whole Anorak to the finals pick hinges on Jared losing to Laser, because I feel like Anorak would get blown out of the water against Jared in the semifinal. But against Laser, I think everything goes crazy and Anorak somehow pulls off a win. That's my pick on Anorak is hinging on Jared losing to Laser, which I don't think that's like, I think it would take an historic upset for that to happen. But I just taking prediction points into account here, which would set up Anorak to the finals, which no one had that. I can tell you go a couple days ago.
Probably he didn't even have that.
Anorak definitely doesn't even have that now. Or maybe he does, I don't know. But I guess if Jared wins, I'm taking Jared. Like in your bracket, I'm taking Jared to the final here. We can discuss both finals. I'm not gonna lie. I think we're gonna talk about Frost versus Anorak pretty quickly. That'll be a quick talk. But Jared versus
I
Frost.
don't know.
Oh, sorry. I should say Frost. It could be me. It could be me or Justin.
Exactly.
Yeah, or Dragon. But yeah,
I
we'll
guess
talk
we should talk
yeah,
about that
yeah.
one.
So in both of our brackets, we have me versus Frost, which it's honestly in my like it's obviously the biggest test Frost is gonna face so far this tournament. Like, of course, week one he faced against Jared and Justin, but I think that's like a sort of way different vibe. You know, it's like week one of the ladder.
Pressure's lower too.
Like you could lose that race, and you know it does matter, but like it's like okay, you lost, you're still gonna have a chance to easily definitely be in the top 8. Probably still be a top 3 seed. You know, so but now like he's gonna place Dragon, and I feel like it's not gonna be that big of a challenge for him. I'll tell you, if I face Frost, I'm definitely gonna make sure that this is going to be the hardest time possible for him to win this race. Like obviously that just means on my end putting together a good run, but like I want to make sure that I like put up a performance that like I kind of mentioned this the other day of like having the race in my hands. And for Frost, no matter what I do, I'm not gonna have the race in my hands. Like I'm not gonna get world record by the time this match would happen. Sorry to admit to myself, but I'm not gonna have a world record then, and I don't think I'm gonna be anywhere close. So the race is going to be in Frost's hands, and it's gonna be up to me to like, especially since I think I have an edge over 99% of the runners in the early game, where I can like put up a really good episode 4 exit. And like something that Frost could put up, like where suddenly if Frost is watching the match and he sees that I maybe even got a better episode 4 exit or an episode 4 exit within like 20 seconds of his, it's like, and anyone could win sort of race, even though it would still definitely be heavily favored in Frost. In his mind, it might be like, okay, crap, like this is a race. I want to at least at some point put into his mind, crap, this is a race. I need to lock in because C North putting up a good time, sort of idea. I know I'm rambling about that, but that's my goal.
Yeah,
if I
just
place Frost.
Put the prize in the bag. We know you're going to say that Frost is going to win this.
Yeah. At the end of the day, if we want to talk about like predictions points, I'd pick myself. But if we want to talk about realistic, like what's going to happen, I have to pick Frost because even on a really good day for me, let's just say, even I put up a mid 220. Let's just say 223x. I put together an insane performance for myself, better than my PB, which I think is possible. But especially with my tournament history. I'm self-glazing by saying it, but like I feel like it's something I can play to PD level or better in tournaments. But even if I do that, I'm still not confident with a 223x that's going to beat Frost. Like I feel like a mid run for Frost could be a 219 at this point. Like a high 219 is 2 minutes off his PB now. So it's like it's hard. Frost is going to have a missed God Fraud into a really bad elsewhere problems for this to even be, a chance of happening, in my brain. So I'm going to pick Frost.
I just agree with that.
Yeah.
Like, the problem is that there's a chance that Frost doesn't have a good run, and that can definitely happen. He could even get like a 221, and then he could just win. And so it's like the extremes, they collide. Maybe there's like a tiny, area where it's possible, and like, I'm not saying that means it's like, oh, there's nothing you can do. It's just, I think even if you're like a minute ahead on a pod race, I think Frost will be so confident in himself, and he's just so consistent right now that he'll be fine. Like, I think he'll come back from anything. He's so good at the late game, which is like such an important thing in races, to like be able to recover from a bad early game, which could totally happen. But at the end of the day, I mean, it all comes down to like 4, 6, and 5, really. Those are like the big 3 episodes, and he's so good at 6 and 5 specifically that I think he'll just be able to find a way no matter what.
Part of me wants to go the route of like, like Frost really hasn't been put in under any pressure this tournament, and let's go the route of Dragon doesn't put any pressure on him, because Frost hits pod fraud, he's ahead by a minute early, and then just like puts up a decent run, and Dragon's not able to gain footing. If I put up a good first half of the run, it would be the first time Frost is really under pressure this tournament. I want to say like, oh, that maybe he falters under that pressure, but Frost definitely seems like the runner who is going to stick to his guns, and like, he's not going to panic if it's even if he has a deficit in like 6 or 3, and I feel like he will still play solid, and I feel like the pressure won't get to him. We don't know for sure, but it seems like Frost is going to be the runner where even if he does get under pressure and somehow I have a lead out of 6 or 3 or something, that he will still be able to capitalize and win and play at
Yeah,
world
and
record level.
he obviously knows your reputation isn't like a late game, you
Yeah,
know, you know,
phenom.
phenom. Yeah,
Yeah. But yeah. I think we both agree picking Frost here. I don't know if you have anything
yeah,
else to talk about in that match.
yeah. That's pretty much it.
Okay. And then I guess let's first talk about my crazy. We'll talk quickly about this one.
Sure.
Anorak versus
So Anorak
Frost.
versus Frostbite.
As much as I want to say Anorak has momentum and all, it's not going to matter. I think in that finals matchup, I think that would unfortunately set up one of the more boring finals. Like
If
Anorak
that
is
happens, that will be like the worst match in the entirety of Ladder League just ever, probably.
yeah. I mean,
Like, because Frost will probably win by like 5 or 6 minutes.
I feel like Anorak's going to be put in a spot where like even if I was in the same situation as Anorak, I'm like I'll be like, man, this is just cooked. Like the thing is, Anorak is probably better at Godfrey than Frost, but even if there's some sort
That's
of Godfrey,
all he has going
that's
for
all
him, though.
it is.
That's
Yeah.
it. Like
Frost
I
would-
don't think there's any levels besides Podrace and Grievous where Anorak is gonna like definitely save time to Frost. That's the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So like how the hell are you gonna win
Yeah.
in that scenario? Like there's just no way.
You probably didn't expect to come on a Ladder League recap to be talking about an Anorak versus Frost final here.
Well, yeah.
So we can move
I
past
mean-
that one quick, and I think Anorak would agree that this would be probably a blowout, and Frost
Gonna
obviously,
get wrapped up within 2 episodes.
and Frost is going to be like, not saying he's going to be playing the best he's ever played, but this is a tournament finals, so he's going to be more locked in than he ever has been for any
Mhm.
80% run. So I don't see another way that he loses that one.
Yeah.
Mind you, let's talk about the other final, which is definitely a final to talk about, the Jared versus Frost final.
Yeah, so let
go
me
ahead.
just say this. If that happens, on my predictions form, it says that I picked Frost. However, the reason for that is because Jared is not guaranteed to make it to grand finals. So if Jared doesn't make it to grand finals, then Frost is going to beat anyone else
Yeah.
in that side of the bracket. Right? And so that's sort of me hedging like, well, okay, if Jared doesn't make it there, I'm still going to pick Frost because, his chances are so good against everyone. However, if Jared makes it there, I think Jared will win. And the reason is there seems to be this pattern where not only do people sort of get too reactionary, like I mentioned earlier, with like a couple good performances, and I know that he's just gotten a world record, of course, and he's like the best runner right now, but also that people seem to forget that literally anything can happen in races. And what that also means is that you can't write off who is probably like on the same level as Frost, like mechanically. His mentality is worse than Frost. I think no one would argue that. But Jared is just so fast, and like if Jared actually exhibits these mentality traits that he's been talking about trying to work on in the last year, then he will win because he has done this before. He made it to finals last year. Like he almost won last year. Like people kind of forget that only happened because of just a GTF sort of meltdown that allowed Evan to barely win. And it's like, if you look at the last few tournament winners, the last one was Evan, who at the time, did he have record? I don't know if his 219.08 was before that.
I think it was after.
So he didn't have record at the time. Then if you go back before that, it was me. I'd only just gotten record, and obviously that whole tournament was whack, but Justin could have won that one too. He was in the position to win. He was super far ahead of me, and he didn't have record. You go before that, it's
Me
you,
against
and you
Ginger.
didn't have record at the time. That was when Justin had it, right?
Yeah. And it was me versus Ginger in the final.
And then if you go back before that, you got record to
In
win
the
the
final,
tournament.
yeah.
So you didn't have it at the time. So it's like, it's very easy to feel like the person who is at the top of the leaderboard is going to be, on the right side of the bracket here. But I just sort of like
actually a crazy
implying
stat.
that-
I don't think anyone's talked about that no one who has won a tournament has had record, except for when I literally got record in the final, which flipped who had record, which if you disregard that, like going into the final, no one has won the tournament who has had record at the time, which is crazy. And that obviously is going to work in Jared's favor if this is a matchup where, he's going to, Frost is going to have to break that historic trend. So, I mean...
Yeah, and I mean, he's gotten further in the bracket than Frost has. You know,
And
like he's
yeah,
gotten to grand finals,
and
Frost never
my
has.
take on
So
this match is that this whole term of the matches in Frost's hands, oh geez, I'm shaking my camera. The matches in Frost's hands and all these scenarios. Jared's the one matchup I think in this entire top 8 where the match is not in Frost's hands. Like if
I
Frost
agree.
plays
Yeah,
well, he could still lose. Like if he plays
yeah,
well against everyone else in this bracket, he will win. If he plays well against Jared and Jared pulls off a run nearest PV and just plays really good, Frost can just straight up lose. So I feel like it's gonna be a race where it's all up to what Jared does basically. Like
yeah.
if Jared
And
has a good
I
run,
think
I think Jared wins. If Jared has a bad run, it's not even gonna be close. Like
right. That's sort of what I'm thinking. Like I think if Frost does win, it'll be a comeback. I don't think
yeah.
he will steamroll Jared the entire time. I just don't see that
Yeah, no, I
happening.
feel like that it would be the Jared Frost final. As much as we want to pick upsets on this bottom half of the bracket, would be the best final to like
For sure,
actually
for
have.
sure.
Like, of course, if it was me or Justin against Jared, I still think it's an interesting final. But obviously, like Frost and Jared are the best two runners of this game right now, and it would be fitting for them to be in the final against each other.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing that I'll say, which I kind of mentioned before, is like you have to remember there's just that added tiny that special very unfortunate factor, which is pressure and expectations that only Frostbite has, and he knows it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows it. The numbers show it, and you can't ignore it. You can't pretend like it's not there. You can be as good as you want, but at the end of the day, no one is immune to nerves, and no one is immune to pressure. And you know, the one person who I think has improved the most under pressure is sitting right there on the street. It's definitely Jared.
I will say, like, as someone who has won, obviously, the Lego Batman tournaments are different, but let's just talk TCS tournaments. I felt like it was the first tournament for sure was the underdog. Obviously, I had the chance of being the favorite and the underdog in both tournaments. Like, obviously, the first one as the underdog. I was playing that final, nothing to lose, like just going full out. And obviously, I played super well and got record, but it's like, it kind of helps to have that, like, if I lose this match, it's not going to be a huge, like, asterisk next to my name or anything. And then, and then the second tournament, it definitely felt different because I was the favorite, and I felt if I lost, that would be like, what the heck was I doing? Sort of idea. Obviously,
especially
it didn't happen.
If you lose to Ginger.
Of course. I know Ginger's definitely not watching this recap, so we can say whatever the hell we want about Ginger right now. But the fact of the matter is, it was a totally different feeling being the favorite. And honestly, I think it was the first, like, obviously our match only lasted one match. If I can remember, the grand final, I struggled at the beginning. I think there was some pressure that got to me, but eventually I cleaned it up and won. But like there is some added pressure being the favorite, being the expected person to win. And I know Frost might not like that people, all expect him to win this whole tournament, or, even just one match, I would not like it if everyone, expects me to win a match. Like, of course, there's the factor of course, I like that people believe in me, but, it's like if I don't win, then are people going to be like, what the heck happened, sort of thing. So,
yeah. I mean, if you want me to be honest, like last year, I was really, really discouraging people from saying that about me because I could feel the pressure mounting in my head. And as soon as I hit new game against Evan, it all started coming to my head. I was like, oh God, everyone thinks I'm going to win this match. Like, I'm like, oh no. And it showed in the match. Like even though I didn't end with a good time and like the performance was more like 223 level or 222 or whatever, which people would say, oh, that's good. Like, for both my and Evan standards at the time, it wasn't. And I think if Frost finds himself in a situation where like let's say he gets like a 221 and loses and people are like, oh, 221 is so good. I can't believe he lost with that. Like he wouldn't be happy with that.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, not only are you taking into account other people's expectations, but Frost probably has the same expectation for himself where he's like, I think I can win. And so he's expecting to win. He's expecting to get like a sub 220 or whatever. And like that stuff gets to you. It just does.
Yeah. And I guess I'll end off on this. I guess we didn't make our official picks. I know you said Frost in the bracket, but I would take Frost.
I think on this bracket, I would take Jared if he plays against Frost. I would only take Frost if he plays against anyone else.
And then I'll quickly touch on this just because we were kind of talking about past tournaments, and unless I somehow pull off a very like if I were to win this tournament, it would be like insane like
Three
upset.
time.
Yeah, it would be not like expect. It's very not expected for me to win this tournament. It will be a new tournament winner, guaranteed. This tournament, like someone who has not won, unless I pull something crazy.
Yeah, because you're the only one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because you and Evan are both not in Ladder League this year, so it'll be really interesting. And the fact that me and Justin are playing round one, it's like, all right, if it's gonna be a new tournament winner, right? It's Wii Super, but in this scenario, it could be a Jared, it could be a Frost. I mean, I don't know.
Could be Anorak.
Could be Anorak. Yeah, you never know. That would be crazy. An Anorak tournament win before Justin.
Okay, actually, what we should do one thing that I'm just curious. What do you think the fastest time out of the entire top 8 will be?
Dude, I'm gonna go on a crazy prediction here and say it's gonna be like this Frost in the first match against Dragon gets like a 2:19:06 or something.
I was gonna say 2:19, like 18 or something. Like in that match, it's definitely gonna be in that match.
Yeah, Dragon is gonna. Yeah. I'm sorry, Dragon. It's just it's a tough situation.
It's gonna be like, all right, well, someone had to be the victim, you know.
Yeah, because I obviously it's 3 matches, right? You expect like Frost to be playing at a top level, but it's like 3 different matches you got to play at a top level. There's bound to be a match or two where he isn't gonna have a good time, and it could be a match where it's like, oh crap, I'm playing Jared in the final, or me or Justin in the semifinal. That's exactly
what I'm thinking. Like,
where it's like,
especially if you cruise to the final, right?
Yeah.
If you beat Dragon and then he just beats your PB in the next round, and then it's like, wow, that was easy. Oh wait, now I'm playing against Jared. Oh wait, now Jared's ahead of me out of episode 1 and episode 2 and episode 4 and episode 6, and it's like, oh god, I'm actually gonna lose. Mm-hmm. And then it all comes crashing down. So.
All right, well, I guess this is the longest ladder review I've ever had.
It should be. It's the top 8 bracket.
So much to talk
about.
It's the
2 largest yappers in the entire community.
That is true. I wanted to touch on this but I can only say it for a quick second. So Bricko, obviously there's a lot of points on the line in prediction standings for the final bracket total. So Bricko with a pretty good lead. I don't know.
Is anyone even close to those 3? I saw someone with 67.
Maybe T-Fresh because he
Ginger has 67. Oh, it's because he got those. He got the 10 bonus points. Time.
Yeah. So
and then that's
the thing is obviously if a crazy bracket happens and someone picks it, this could totally be flipped. Someone with 0, like I was telling Sid, I was like, you should fill out the predictions because you could have 0 points right now and win if you pick a crazy bracket and it happens. It probably won't happen, like Dragon winning the tournament. But if you pick Dragon to win all 3 of his matches, I think it's over 150 points. Or it definitely is. So
it is. It's like 50 points in the final alone or something.
So our predictions definitely not over. Hamster, our defending champion, only with a 32 point. That's less than me. I have a terrible 38 right now. Let's see, Zach is at 53. So respectable.
Yeah, I was
53.
Doing pretty well until the top 8. The
so
top 8 incident.
Anything can happen in terms of predictions. Anything can happen in terms of the ladder. But yeah, that's what I'll leave you with. I will say there might be a final bracket update video. Probably not. I don't think I see a reason to do one. But if I find a reason, like if the craziest things happen in the first 2 rounds and it set up a crazy final.
If Frost loses to Dragon, you gotta make one.
Yeah, if Frost loses to Dragon, I'll guaranteed make one. Maybe Frost is gonna throw now. I'm kidding.
Yeah. It's I need another Senior video.
But yeah. Maybe one, and I don't know if I think at this point, I had a fun season with season 2 with all the guests coming on. I think I'll definitely have a recap plan, but it won't be with a guest, like a final tournament breakdown. Yeah. I think that'll just be me. If I did it with a guest, it would be a 5-hour long video. So this is already so long just with you. So I'll leave it on that. Thank you so much, Zach, for coming in. Yep. And I'm gonna be very excited to see how this tournament plays out. My match starts tomorrow. I hope I win. Go me.
Go Senor.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Go me. All right. Have a good one, guys.